Hey, welcome to another episode of the Ask Mrs. HR podcast. I am so excited to be here again and that you are here again for another episode where we talk about things that interest humans, human resources. I like to say that because it's all about how you show up in the workplace and outside the workplace. And I'm Ask Mrs. HR. Welcome back. Well, today, oh my goodness, I have to look at my notes for this one because my guest has such a bio that I have to make sure I say it all. So, welcome first, LaVada English.
Thank you. Thank
And
you. Happy to be here.
oh, look at you, go girl. All right. So, LaVada English is a passionate educator with a sincere belief in the potential of humankind. We're going to just stop there. That's awesome.
Oh, thank
She
you.
has a passionate belief in humankind. And she is the founder and CEO of Bright Places. Write that down right now. Bright Places, Inc., a strategic coaching firm focused on leadership development and quality. Focus on leadership development and quality, but also in equity and inclusion. And LaVada has worked in this field for over 2 decades.
Yes, yes.
And she says she's just getting started, okay? As a certified intercultural capacity coach. And she trademarked that. By the time this episode airs, that will be a trademark expression. And LaVada has impacted the mindsets of decision makers within private and corporate and government sectors. All right. Well, that's the rest you can tell them. Was there anything else you want them to know other than you from Philly?
I'm from Philly. Go Eagles.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess we'll get into it, and
Okay,
I'll tell you some more
wonderful.
about what I got going on.
Well, one thing I have to do, another shameless plug, is when I wrote this book, The Diversity Dilemma, part of the dilemma was they didn't want to publish the book, like different publishers that I reached out to. They basically, out of like 20 different publishers, they were saying that they had enough diversity books in that space. So they had 1 or 2 authors, like let's say one of the big publishing houses, you could think of whatever name, because trust me, I called them. And they were like, oh, well, how is this different from XYZ diversity book? And I said, well, it's different because it's from my perspective as a
Yeah.
chief diversity officer in different organizations. And it was like, oh, no, well, we don't see how it's different. And so all that to say, me and my younger son, Anthony, started Thatched Roof Publishing, and The Diversity Dilemma is published under that. And LaVada English is our next author.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes.
I'm excited to be in a safe space to create and be coached by such an amazing trailblazer as yourself.
All right now.
I think when we bring our things home and we do it ourselves, it has more quality, more content, more meaning, and why not? Why not start your own publishing company and do your own thing and like I said, blaze your own trail.
Thank
right?
you. Now y'all see why she here on the show. That's right. Thank you so much. Seriously, I've never started a publishing company. I had never started a HR company, but I remember being in the workplace and never doing a whole lot of things, but they still expected me to do it. They expected me to figure it out in less than 24 hours, and they expected me to do it excellent. And everything that I do now, I think about that, how they knew I wasn't equipped. Sometimes they knew I didn't have the experience. They knew I didn't have the mentorship. They knew I had a terrible leader, and they still expected me to do things that I didn't even know how to do, but I figured it out. And I love that about us as, Black women and just women of color and just, everybody of color, that we know how to figure it out. And then I want to inspire you, keep you inspired. And so you can just do it. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Exactly. What people often try to make us forget is that any great movement in this country has been led by Black women, and I'm pretty sure around the world great movements have led. So they know how smart we are.
Yes,
That's why they gave you all of those tasks and duties. They just want to take credit for your work and then demean you and convince you that you're not as smart as what you are.
You read this book, didn't you?
Girl, we live in that book.
We
live in that book.
No, that is what the book was really.
I'm in that book.
That's right. That's true. Her name is in it and her story is in it too. No, we are that book because we fight since the beginning of time, like you said, we fight for equity, we fight for inclusion, but who is fighting for us? And so we look up and we like, I'm fighting for everybody. And then I'm out here tired, looking twisted, hair half done, nails, just looking beat down. And that's the dilemma to me around diversity is we're the ones championing for it when we need people to be championing for it for us, right? Does that make sense? Okay.
Well, I'm gonna push back a little bit on what you
Okay,
said
go ahead. I love. She always pushes back. She always
you
pushes
might
back.
feel like you're beat down and you're dragging, but you look good.
Oh, okay. She could say
so
that.
we pull that off. That's one of the other.
We do.
That's one of the other. I
look
guess
good.
sort of misnomers, right? We look like we can handle it all, and sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves because when we come in the room, we sharp, and they wish. I'm just gonna say other people wish they had the confidence, the style, the melanin, the agelessness that we have, right? And can handle all the things, right? And so sometimes it might work against us because people think they can continue to put things on us.
Yes.
That and we don't, take care of ourselves.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It is so true. I'm laughing because me and you and I had a conversation the other day, and I was just in my delusion thinking, and I won't say how old we are, but I'm like thinking that you are like 10 years younger than me.
I don't know why.
And I was just like talking to her like I'm her big sister. And that's all I'll say about that. I was just like, because you look so good and just so youthful and everything. And I'm sure, I'm sure people see me that way, but then it's like inside, the point is we feel old. It's like, I'm just going to make it. If I could just make it to the day.
Right.
If I could just get my hair on straight.
Yeah.
If I could just and we feel it internally. But yes, like you said, we look like we got it. We look like we have it together. And that is the worst thing, unfortunately, for Black women, because by the time we done collapsed on the ground or had a total breakdown, people don't even know that we were so close.
We were going through it,
that we were going through things. And that's why, we try so hard to be open with our lives. And then when you open with our lives, and then like you telling too much or you showing too much, right?
Yeah. well, we don't know. Quitting is not an option for us. So
that's true.
You're right. So sometimes we go too long, too hard, and then when we quit, it's too late, right? When we slow down, it's too late, rather.
Yes. Wow. Goodness, that's good. We could just talk about that all day.
Well, we know that we are not against, taking a nice little vacation, taking a nice little breather, right? We've learned to do those things.
Yes.
I know you had Dr. Linda on earlier.
Yes.
And, any doctor would tell you, you got to slow it down. And as you get older, you learn to do those things, right?
And we talked about the employee assistance program. So again, anytime as a human resources person, that's why I look over here into the camera and say, make sure you know about your employee assistance program. When I was really going through it with my children, and I had one that was extremely difficult, going in and off of like drugs, and I'm just going to say what it was. I had a child who was difficult, and I had a difficult situation in general. Like it wasn't easy raising my 3 children. I use that EAP all the time. We took our children to counseling. We went to marriage counseling. That business that I was working for had an EAP plan. And so my kids knew when they were running into problems with their self-esteem, with whatever, we were calling the 1-800-EAP line and we were making an appointment and we were getting some help. And I just really want people to know, especially Black women, because I tell people, even when I'm teaching, I'm like, that's my bias. My bias is wanting to favor Black women because I'm a Black woman. But all people, like, use the EAP. Okay, I want to talk about humans and leadership. And you have a lot to say about that. So I just got to take a deep breath. Sorry. So as HR people and as a organizational development person, as a cultural leader, what is going on with leaders in the workplace? Why is it so difficult for leaders to truly lead?
One of the outstanding factors, which most people probably won't be surprised, is that they're not trained to lead. They're not prepared to lead. Lots of people move from individual contributor positions, but they don't go through any type of extensive leadership program. And that requires a lot of psychological training, right? Because you're dealing with people's personalities, right? You're dealing with people's mood swings. You need to be able to identify if it's something that's out of scope for you to handle when it comes to people's behaviors. And leadership is not about task, it's about people, right? And if you don't have that skill, then, I had a really a mentor that I respected. Her name was Dr. Eve Fenton. And I'll never forget, she preached a sermon at my church. She said there's such thing as the laws of sequential order, right? The laws of sequential order. And the laws of a sequential order suggest that we do things in order: one, two, three, four, and five, right? So a lot of times what people do is they don't prepare, they don't do things in order, right? So now if you're not prepared for something, right, and you try to jump from one to five, then you're going to make a mess of things because you haven't completed two, three, and four, right? And so a lot of times leaders come to me and it's just a mess, and they have to go back and they have to learn the things they should have learned in order to work with people, because leadership is about being human and being able to handle working with personalities.
You
Right?
said a whole lot. I feel like I jump those steps a lot too myself. Like I'll jump from step 1 to 4 and then to go try to get to
Me too.
5.
Me
And
too.
but here's a person that I'm more so individual contributor. How do you describe that for people who don't know what that is? What's it? Who is an individual contributor?
An individual contributor is someone who is completing a task at a job. They're not in a leadership role. Say maybe like a computer programmer, right? You
Yeah.
come in, you learn how to, you know, the technical stuff. You got a degree in whatever technological specialty you have, right? And you come in and you do well in the organization and you're contributing as a team member,
Yeah.
right?
Good. Good. Thank you. So you're an individual contributor. You're a contributor, and your leader is cuckoo. Or you looking at it like, why? I'm confused. I don't understand. My leader sucks. My leader's horrible.
Right.
What are they supposed to do?
Well, hopefully, if they have a supportive leader over that leader, maybe it's something they can talk about with the VP or whoever is in charge of that immediate supervisor, right? Hopefully, they're in an environment where there's some open dialogue and there's an opportunity to give some feedback, right? That's one thing you can do. You could try to manage up, which means as an individual contributor, you understand how you would like to be led and what you need to develop. And you could start having conversations with that leader and be open about what you need. Now, I will tell you, most people don't know how to manage up, though. So there's a lot of conflict in the workplace, right? So that individual contributor can feel hopeless,
Right.
and unfortunately, if that individual contributor is one of our top 80% in terms of performance, typically what they do is they wind up leaving, right? Because they can find a less toxic environment where they can, thrive. But here's the risk. That's probably after a few years where they've sucked up information and experience, and then that organization is losing that valuable
Right.
employee.
Wow. Yeah. You just described most of my career.
I'll take my talents elsewhere. Thank you.
I just would be in a job and I'm like, I just feel like they are sucking the life out of me. I just would be sitting here. And then I never forget I was at this one company, and I'm going to say the name of this company because it was so long ago, but I was working at Cablevision. And I was so excited. And there was this girl that was sitting next to me. She was a young white girl, nice girl. And we had the same title. We were individual contributors. And she did nothing. But yet people would come to me and be like, she's not going to do nothing. So can you do it? And can you do it? And they just would constantly make excuses for her. And then every time I'd fall short, I'd be, threatened or get written up or something. And I mean, a part of it felt very racial, felt very ageist because I was older, she was younger. But my point is, I just was like, y'all suck. I can't be here no more. Y'all are sucking the life out of me.
Yeah.
And so I ended up that was my first job before I went into human resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had left that job, but it was just, I never forget, it was very traumatic. How do you deal with leaders who have traumatized people?
Yeah. Well, let me just preface this by saying there are some really good leaders out
Okay,
here,
thank
right?
you.
So I have
Remind
some
us.
leaders that I work with that are really dedicated to
Yes.
creating equality in the workplace. They come to me because they want to be better leaders. They come to me because they know they haven't been trained. I have CEOs that call me, several times a day. Can you work with this person? And they're dedicated to helping these employees and their leaders be better. So there are some good people out there. I think there's a couple things going on though. When it comes to the diversity dilemma, and when we're talking about these topics, we have to consider the fact that there's leadership and experiences in the workplace, and then there's leadership and experiences in the workplace for African Americans and people of color, right?
Right.
So when I tell people I've studied all the leadership books, Patrick Lencioni, all the books, Good to Great, everybody, right? What's his name? Keith Ferrari, Never Eat Alone, all the things. I would read the books and I would think, but what about us? Like, this is
Right.
through a white guy's lens,
Right.
right? So I have to take those theories, and when I'm coaching a black woman or African American man, for example, I have to consider that there are dynamics, and then there are dynamics for us, right? So there's a couple of things going on, right? So you might have a leader that's just toxic across the entire team, but then there could be another experience for us that's even more traumatic, right?
Right.
So one of the things I think that happened, and this is one of my sort of theories about life, is that when first of all, everybody should know that people that look like us were here before colonization, so everybody didn't come here on a slave ship, right? So when our parents before technology and college and advancement, and so they were entrepreneurs. They built businesses. They built empires, right? And then they, because of their hearts, and they thought they were working really hard, they said, you all should go to college and get a degree. Because if you get a degree, you're going to be able to make it, right? You're going to be able to advance in corporate America, right? Okay, so now they have a degree. But they didn't know what we were going to face when we went into these corporations. They didn't know anything about the injustices. They didn't know how to prepare us for the psychological trauma. They didn't know how to prepare us for being mentally abused, right, as people of color, because they were not corporate professionals. They were entrepreneurs, right? My grandparents owned a farm down south, right?
Mine's owned the dry cleaners.
Yeah, and they sent all of their kids up to Philadelphia to go to college. The history is crazy, right? With no financial aid, right? And my grandmother was an entrepreneur, right? And they thought they were telling us to do the right thing, right? That's why a lot of us are going back to entrepreneurialism,
Right?
Because we've learned, So those toxic behaviors in the workplace have a lot to do with casteism, have a lot to do with the fact that they don't want us to be as smart as we are. They want us to shut up at the table, right? And so for me, again, you're going to have some really good people who really want to be good leaders.
Yeah.
They really want to be aware of those things. But then you have those workplaces where you need to understand that you are to come there and get what you need to get out of it and then get the hell out.
Oh, Christ, say it again.
Right? Open your own business.
Say it again now.
Build your own stuff.
Get the what out?
And then when you send your kids in these corporations, let them know that that's an option for them. You can go in there and learn, but you do not have to stay in there and be abused for all your days.
I feel like that's a theme on the Ask Mrs. HR podcast.
Get what you need.
Get out.
Develop, right?
Is take what you can. And I was saying it on another podcast, like it's like in my head I see it as Robin Hood, where Robin Hood took from the rich and gave to the poor. Well, that we have rich corporations, even those Amazon.
Yeah, we built. By the way, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. All right now, that we built. But Amazon is. I allude to them in my book. I won't say where, but it's if you watch the 1619 Project, and how Amazon has, they might come for me for this, but it's true, has become kind of in some sense a new plantation. Because some of their organizations are in where plantations used to be.
I believe it.
So my point is, I still buy these. My book is on Amazon. It's just that's the dilemma. It's a part of a dilemma. I still need Amazon. We need it as a community, as a country, as an economy. However, sometimes the way Amazon is showing up, it can look just like a plantation, especially the people, the individual contributors and poor people and people of color. And so that's all that to say. Take what you can get. Take what you can. Amazon has benefits. Amazon has an EAP program. Amazon has leadership training. Amazon has days off. Like, use everything. You go there. The difference is on the plantation, you couldn't really leave. At least you could leave the Amazon plantation when you're ready. And you're learning how to build your own business. One of our, we've read all the business books. They always talk about McDonald's and, working at McDonald's or Burger King, and how they have these leadership programs that really teach you how to own your own business. And who wants to work at McDonald's as a teenager, right? It's like they get teased or whatever. But those people who work at McDonald's as a teenager, they understand, they have strong business acumen because they had to learn how to manage other teenagers at a young age, and how to take those skills and then build their own business or own their own McDonald's, own their own franchise.
Yeah.
So all that, every time, I feel like every episode is about taking everything, the good and the bad, right? And then using it to build your own business, to build your own empire. Because I feel like we as people of color and women, we definitely need our empires. We come take our empires back.
Yeah.
Period. Come get your empire.
Well, maybe one day they'll listen to Elizabeth Warren and tax the rich the way they're supposed to.
Okay, now she's got real political. Go ahead. All right.
One of the first things you learn in business school is what? This is a monopoly. So we see these monopolies, and it doesn't align with a healthy culture.
Wow. Yeah. You said a lot. Well, goodness. So people will probably look at us and be like, and I say it in my book too, that we're angry. Oh, look at these two angry. Look at these two. How are they talking about how the man holding them down, or how they mistreated in the workplace? Is that what we're saying, LaVada?
No, not at all. Like I said, there's some really good people out here that want to do good in the world, right? It's just that, we're about the business of dismantling systems that hold us back, right? And here's the thing. When Black women break through, we break through for everybody.
I'll get up off my chair now.
You said it earlier, Thelá, when you said that we are by ourselves often, right? So I thought about this a lot over my career and throughout my life, how there's an alignment. When you look at corporate America, right? When we go in, we don't have an alignment with anybody. We're not Caucasian, so we can't align with the highest agent, which is the white man in the workplace, right? We are not men, so part. We can't. We're not going to be men, right?
Right.
And so oftentimes we can feel very much alone, right?
Yes.
And we have to figure things out, right? And we're here not because we're angry and negative. We're here because we're hopeful. We're still talking about the fact that we can make change and we can force change, right? And again, when we do that, other people benefit.
Yes.
Right. Other people benefit, and we all often carry that on our shoulders. We want everyone to benefit.
Yes.
And they know. I believe, and this is why people bring me in the room. Coach, because I most of the time I'm the only person in the room, and I'm teaching everybody. I'm the only African American in the room,
right.
And African American female. There is a hope, and I think we do bring that energy to the spaces and places where we go.
I agree. I just started this new thing these past 2 years that wherever I see like a crowd of people, I make sure I'm over there. It's like, I remember we were vacationing. We went to an excursion, and we were on the ship, and they were like, most of the other people were getting off. A lot of the Black people I was with, they're like, I don't feel like getting off the boat. I don't want to go there. I don't want to, because we were going to tour a certain area of New Orleans, and all the white people ran off the boat. I was like, oh no, I'm going. Wherever they going, I'm going too. Because I want to experience, and I know it seemed funny, but we need to be in the room. We need to be in the vicinity and then we ended up going to tour this plantation. That's where we were going.
Yeah.
But then there was this educational center that was like a few miles down. And the people that stayed on the boat, they missed so much. They
Oh,
miss
yeah.
I'm using that as kind of example of that's what happens when we don't make sure we're in the room. Like we're missing out. We have to be exposed
Yeah.
to some of the same things that our white counterparts. I don't want to just make it all about white because it can also be education. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of times I was in the workplace. I went to a state school. Shout out Keene University in New Jersey. By the time I got to certain parts in the organization, most of my counterparts were Harvard graduates. They were all, almost at one point, they were all from Harvard. So I'm sitting here from Keene, and the rest of the five, they all from Harvard.
Yeah.
And they reminded me, oh, we went to a Harvard. Oh, we just had a meeting from Harvard. And they would drop Harvard every day. I'm like, well, Keene is having the rally.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I thought. But anyhow, they would minimize the school that I came from. So I had to always try to make sure I was in the room. Did that make sense?
Yeah. We have to ask ourselves, why did they need to do that, right? Those are the questions we need to ask, right?
Well, I'm going to just say it to the camera. Some of them folks was dumb as a rock. I'm like, Harvard, what? What? I always laugh at that because it did intimidate me at first. And then there was, not everybody, of course, from Harvard, but there were a few. It was clear it didn't make you smarter because you went to Harvard.
No, I think, and I don't have the data. My youngest daughter told me about this, that there was a study, a recent article on the results of admission since they remove affirmative action measures from some of the universities. And lo and behold, the African American admission stayed the same. The reductions were from other cultures. So yeah.
Wow.
Speaking
Thank
of,
you for dropping that knowledge.
Being smart, right?
Yeah, because we're going to get in because we are smart. Period.
Yeah. But you know what? I worked at a university for a few years. And what I realized was this was my first time, I guess, really close up learning about just really close up seeing privilege, legacy kids and things like that.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that we spent a lot of our lives thinking that in order to get the most out of life, we have to work really hard.
Right.
And that's not the case for others.
Yes.
And that's why we're so overeducated in many instances, highly overeducated,
Right.
especially Black women.
Yeah.
And then always feeling like we have to do more, which is indicative of our own culture, right?
Yes.
Pressuring each other and trying to outprove each other. But
Yes.
you don't have to be.
So I want to talk to you about your book, but
Okay.
I want to talk about one thing in my book that you kind of brought up that I'm just curious to hear your response. So in my book, as you probably know, I talk about the Black female overseer.
Yeah, deep. When
So
you said that,
I was
like,
at the beach one day,
Say,
and I was
girl.
just talking to a friend, and she was going on about her miserable job, and that, which every day somebody's talking to me about that. That's why I said, let me just do a podcast to encourage people. But anyhow, she was talking about her miserable job, and I said, is your boss, do you mind telling me, how does she identify? Oh, she identifies as Black. She's like, and that's the problem, because I thought she would and she's Black, and I just said, you know what? There's this phenomena called a Black female overseer. And then the more I thought about it, the more, and I talk about it in the book, that I started to see I was being groomed to be a Black female overseer. And that a lot of times that's what they do to us in the workplace. They put us in the workplace to control and manage all the Black people because they don't know what the heck to do with us. So they just be like, okay. And so I would hear things like, oh, you're nurturing from the white people who I reported to. Oh, you're so good with people. You're so good with them. You're so good with the other. Oh, you're so good with that group. And things like that. And then on the flip side, from my people, you are Oreo, you are Aunt Thomasina, just because I'd be around the other people. So, okay, I want to hear what you have to say about that, LaVada, because I know you have an opinion about that.
Yeah, well, navigating the workplace and being able to keep your let's say your dignity and your alignment with your culture is difficult. It's difficult for individuals as they rise in ranks in the organization, because the people that look like them and think like them don't have the power to keep them in their job or promote them, right? And so I think there's this sense of I have to sell out, if you will, in order to be,
Right,
elevated in in the
Yes, yes,
positions.
yes.
And I think where the mistakes are made is that they don't find a balance. You need to find a balance. You
Yeah.
need to be able to look out for those who deserve it, regardless of the color of their skin,
Right.
and include folks and speak up for folks. And you need to have enough confidence to know that you can do it. And so that, that is one of the reasons why I see, like, one of the things that you need to have, honestly, and we haven't talked about this, is an exit plan. And you need to be financially fit, because
Yes.
you need to feel like, as a VP or as an executive, if I speak up and I don't have this job, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. Y'all need you
Right.
need to repeat that
Right.
one more time
Right. And that's
for the people in the back.
be financially fit so you can exit if you need to.
Because when people
Right.
say it, they think I'm saying quit your job or you don't need. No, maybe you need to say it one more time for the people way in the
Be
back.
financially fit so you won't be selling out for some dollars, right?
Right. You know.
And
Yes.
and
Thank
one of
you.
the tactics of the highest agents, like as I like to
Yes.
say, is money. Trying to keep you,
mm.
locked down
I'm about to knock the
with
mic
money.
over.
And it's one of the things that, like, if I go back to
Yes.
why I gave the example, or why I talked about our parents not preparing us for corporate America, it's because one of let me just go back. I'm gonna tell you this story.
Okay.
I was at, not to come at the brothers, but I was at an event once, and there was a group of black men talking about salaries,
Right.
and they were talking about negotiating salaries, 6-figure salaries, which is like, okay, I'm like, no, you got to go high 6 figures, almost 7 figures if you're going to make some real money, especially out here in California, right? So I said, well, when you negotiate for your salary, you need to be negotiating for your investments, not just so you could pay your
Right.
bills at your house. Because when white men negotiate for their salaries, they're thinking about, properties they're going to buy, stocks they're going to buy, investments they're going to make, and so forth, right?
Yes.
And so you need to know your worth and negotiate for your investments. Because if
Yes.
you're not at that job anymore, right, you're going to be fine if you're
Right.
financially fit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, people sell out because they're scared.
They're scared
There's
to
no
death.
power in aligning with the people that look like you in the organization, because they're not
Yes.
hiring you and firing you.
Yes, and I've seen it on the other side as a human resources person, as the person who gives those executives their packages, and it's included. They have the umbrella, the golden parachute. Is that what I'm saying right? Golden parachute clauses. Well, if I'm fired within the next year, I not only get a full salary, but I get additional 400,000.
Yep.
I never forget. I didn't personally fire him. I was responsible for the termination of a senior executive. He bounced out of there so happy.
Probably got $5 million.
He got so much money. Then I saw him the next month. He came back as a consultant, just laughing in my face. I was like, he was like, thank you. Numerous times that happened. And then on the other side, for the individual contributor, I've been in rooms where they would ask me to my face. I need to look to my face. Does she have a family? How many kids does she have? Because they want that person. They wanted that person to feel the pressure. They're like, well, she's not going to quit because she got 4 kids. They would say that to my
yeah.
face.
I've been in
She's
those
not going
meetings
to quit. She's not going to quit because
Those
she got 3
succession
kids.
planning
Oh, her
meetings.
husband an alcoholic. She ain't going to quit. Oh, she's not going to sue because she ain't got no money.
This
She
is
don't
what
have no
happens
money.
in the HR room, so that people know what really
Yeah,
happens
that's
in
what
HR
I'm trying
rooms.
to tell y'all. This is what in the HR, they'll ask you questions. How many kids does she have? Is she married? Where does she live? Because they want to see how much money or power that person has. And if there's filing the lawsuit, what's the lawyer? Who's the lawyer? What law firm did she get?
Right. So
That's the first question.
They're in bed with each other too. Yeah. So
Okay, they're gonna think we angry. Okay,
no, we're not angry. We just
angry.
know the truth. And what is interesting is that in my coaching, when I coach people, because sometimes people come to me to be coached to get positions and so forth. I'm just honest. I'm like, this is how you negotiate. This is what you want to do.
Have to.
You want to, and like I said, there are good leaders out here. You want to be able to identify organizations that are really invested in taking care of you psychologically.
I
And
teach
you
my
wanna look for the
students that all
signs.
the time. And I'm going to say one last thing before we talk about your book, because we really got to talk about that. I learned early on, maybe about 15 years ago, and you're going to say, of course, managers and leaders do not respect you unless you negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
Period. They're like, should I negotiate for $24 instead of 23? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they say no, you come in there saying, I want more.
Yeah.
Because they may say no. They might say, well, we'll give you 23.50.
Yeah.
Or they might just give you 25. But still, it shows something. It shows that you have the character and a potential leadership skills, because leaders are not afraid to ask for what they want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're sitting here, you're not going to negotiate. You might as well. You just wrote like your own little
Yeah.
obituary for yourself,
Yeah.
because they're not going to give it to you. You
Yeah.
got to ask for it. Okay, let's talk about your book.
Well, before we get into that,
Okay.
I've been a coach a long time, even when I was hiring corporate America, and I used to teach people to ask for your worth.
That's
and
right.
I used to fight for it.
That's
You need to give him $20,000 more,
Yeah.
$40,000 more. I used to fight, so because people don't know, our people don't know. They didn't know
I
that.
know. That's why I wanted you right. And negotiate everything. I'm not a haggler. That's why I go to CarMax, because they look. You could be a sponsor of CarMax, but no, serious. That's why I go to CarMax, because
CarMax.
I like to go in there and get the car I want and just give it to me. But in the workplace, it's like, no. I've done my research. I know that this
Know your
role
market
pays this
values,
much.
know what
I
this
know
is
my
right.
value, and if they don't appreciate your value up front, what do you think is going to happen once you're in the job?
Yeah, well, we could do a podcast just on market values and understanding your market value.
That's
we
right.
could teach people.
We'll do part
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, and 5. What's the name of your book?
Well, I'm excited to be writing my book, which you are pushing me to finish. It's called The Proactive Team,
Yes.
leading your team to think beyond the task.
Okay.
As I have journeyed through my career, what I realized is leaders are looking for people to be thinkers, right?
Yeah.
And it's 2024. You can't just be on the job and not understand how to develop strategies, work better,
Yes.
right, with the technologies we have, and people are. It's just a different day, right? If you don't know how to think, then they're going to replace you with AI. Because
Wow, you just said a whole
we
lot
don't need
right
paper
there.
pushers. We need strategists.
Yes, as you could put in Chat GPT.
Right.
That's
But you need to know what to put in chat. If
Yeah,
you don't know what to put in chat, I don't need
if you don't know how to ask Chat, that's a good point. Oof, that's deep.
yeah.
I didn't even think about
yeah.
people who don't even know what to put in the chat.
If you don't know what to put in the chat,
not
or
good.
whether it's telling you the right thing, then we don't need you anymore. So there's 4 areas that I think are really important when it comes to leadership and leading teams to be proactive and identifying mindsets, right, that are proactive. Because I always say we want to, when we're hiring people, we want to hire mission partners, right? We want to hire mindsets,
That's
right?
smart. Yeah.
And we want to cultivate those mindsets from there. But we need to focus on helping people to feel human, right, in the workplace, and all of the emotional intelligence things and the non-toxic environments, much as what we were talking about.
Right.
We need to ensure that people feel heard, right? People need to have a voice. They need to be able to give input, right?
Right.
People need to be effective. So they have to have the right tools to be effective, right? And they need to be empowered. So people like to be in places where they can be developed, right? Where they can potentially move into leadership, where they feel that their skills are valued, or like we said, they'll take those skills, right? And they'll take them, all that training that you've invested in them, and they'll go to another workplace, right?
So this book is for the leader.
It's for the leaders who would like to help their teams to be, more proactive. Because the challenges that I face all the time with teams is that, hey, we need our people to think more analytically. We need them to figure things out without interrupting us all the time.
Wow.
We need to get rid of the toxic conflict in the workplace. People get hung up on conflict. And it's because the leaders haven't mastered these 4 areas.
Yeah.
And they're not holding people and their entire organization to these 4 core areas.
Yeah. Thank you. In my experience, I found that leaders are put, and this is what I did my dissertation on, is really around executive hiring. And some of the things that came out of the dissertation work is, nepotism, cronyism, favoritism, any ism other than like qualified
qualifying for the job. Right, qualifyism.
Being qualified.
And all that costs money. All that's going out the window. It's like not going to work anymore.
I know. Every time I did it, I surveyed over 150 people during my dissertation work, and almost maybe 3% actually had a recruiting process. They all, like the 97% were hired because they knew somebody.
Yep.
It was all, well, we swim together at the public pool.
Yeah.
And she told me about the job opening, and here I am.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. And you wonder why your team is toxic and the skills are all out of alignment, right?
And what experience? Well, we went to school together, and she told me she needed somebody. Here I am. I'm like, huh? So, and then did you have a job description?
Right.
What was the criteria of the job? Oh,
ambiguity.
They don't
breeds
even
conflict,
know.
Yeah.
Say it again. One time.
Ambiguity
breeds conflict.
No process. And I will tell you, Thelá, that I haven't done the actual percentage on it, but when I first went into the workplace right out of undergrad, when I was pursuing my graduate degree, I was at a large pharmaceutical corporation. So I was born and bred into like training and development and learning about Dale Carnegie early on and so forth. So what shocked me as a consultant is how many organizations have no training at all for their workforce, for their leaders. And many organizations I work with, this is their first time they're having team training, right? Customer service training, you know, conflict resolution training, any kind of skills, soft skills training they haven't had, right? Which affects, you know, their performance. So we're moving into a time when people need to step it up. Because and then I tell people all the time, be nice, because if you're a pain in the butt, there's no reason to keep you.
Just be nice.
Because AI can replace you. All you're doing is answering the phone. My goodness.
Well, I definitely have to, again, use that as a segue to talk about Mrs. HR in the Box, because I am so proud of Mrs. HR in the Box. Mrs. HR is my alter ego. She's like my other personality. I like to think she's the more formal person and Thelá is the fun person, but lately it's kind of just like those superhero sagas where they get blended together. They can't tell who the difference is. Anyhow, that's my for my therapist. But I'm just kidding. So Mrs. HR in the Box is that do-it-yourself human resources product. And I'm really excited because it has like learning modules. So basic things that some of the stuff we talk about, honestly, sometimes when I talk to you about it, I'm like, why are we talking about this still? I'm tired of talking.
We talk about it, but they don't.
I know. We talk.
I have to remind my colleagues all the time.
So I got her on Plug and Play. You buy it and you can listen to me tell you or share with you about all the different stages of the employee life cycle and what you should be doing during those stages. The good news is, even if you don't want to hear it, doing it will allow you to get certification credit. It'll at least help you understand yourself as a manager, HR, what you're supposed to be doing. So, MrsHRinthebox.com. So, how do they reach you? Since I'm over here shamelessly plugging
I love it.
HR in the Box.
We need it. So, I am at Bright Places. So, it's BRGT.
Just no I.
BRGTPLACES.com.
Okay.
Brightplaces.com.
What made you name your business Bright Places?
Because there are so many workplaces that just feel dark. Right? And when you go into a room and you think about light and brightness, there's an energy there, and we need to make our workplaces brighter, right? And like I explained to a lot of my teams, that we work probably from the time we're like 12 or 13 when we start volunteering. I was a candy striper at a hospital. I volunteered, right? And then we work up until, now like 75, years old. And so all that time you're in the workplace, I mean, come on, it can't be heavy, right? It can't be toxic for all that time. And then there's a statistic where, when people have heart attacks, it's usually on a Sunday or a Monday morning, stressed out, thinking about the week, right? And so, come on, guys, we need to brighten the day.
Yes.
Walk into your workplaces and have an energy where people feel love and light, and like it's not that deep. It's work, and so we just need to be better in the workplace.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, you are that love and light for me, because sometimes I feel like I'm spinning and spinning and spinning. And you have always been that bright place for me to like go to into the light.
Yes,
Go
go to
into
the
the
light.
light.
There's good leaders
There's
out here,
hope.
everybody.
Keep hope.
There's good people. If it wasn't good people out here that really want
Yes.
to help you develop and want to be good leaders, then I wouldn't have a job, because that's why they
Yes.
call me, because they really
Yes.
earnestly want to stop making mistakes, be better, and make the workplace better for them and all of their employees.
Well, good job, LaVada English of Bright Places. Thank you for coming on Mrs. What's my past last name? Ask Mrs. HR.
Ask Mrs. HR.
See,
Yes.
I told you she's here to help me. Thank you for coming on the Ask Mrs. HR podcast, and I can't wait for us to be. I think I see like a future of us with a group of women on
let's
a
do
big
it.
table. We need a bigger
do it.
table.
Round table.
We need a round table. And
All these
that's
intelligent
next.
divas dropping dimes.
Yeah, that's next. We're gonna get a big old table in here, and we're just gonna put people all around the table. I love it. All right. Well, thank you for joining the Ask Mrs. HR podcast, and please reach out to LaVada English at Bright Places, and check out the Diversity Dilemma on Amazon. Hey, no, look, I ain't mad at you, Amazon. Y'all just need to do better. And what else we got? Oh, I don't have my swag on, but go to the hrstore.biz for some cute HR gear. And I think that's enough for now. That's enough. Just find me at TheláThatch.com and see you on the next Ask Mrs. HR podcast. Thank you.